It was a quiet evening, like any other. I had just finished a long shift in my mind still buzzing with the adrenaline of the day, but a part of me just wanted to get home. The hospital was full of soldiers, my brothers and sisters in arms, suffering from the aftermath of their service, and it was my job to help them heal. But this time, I wasn't the one doing the healing. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us where you are listening. Your support means everything. As I walked out of the hospital, I realized I needed to pick up a few things from the store. Nothing big, just some water, maybe a snack, and then home to sleep. I drove down the familiar road to a convenience store close by. The parking lot was quiet. There was a patrol car in the distance with 2 officers sitting inside, talking casually. I didn't think anything of it. I was just a soldier, like I always was, nothing special. I parked, grabbed my wallet, and walked into the store, keeping to myself. But as I passed the police car, I felt their eyes on me. Something about the way they looked made me pause. I turned my head slightly, and one of the officers was staring at me with a strange, almost judgmental look. He didn't smile. He just watched. I ignored it and kept walking. When I came out of the store, the same officer was standing by his car. I didn't think much of it at first. He was just standing there, right? But when I reached my car, I heard him shout, "Hey, you there?" He called out. I turned, a little confused. I had no idea why he was calling me over. Maybe it was some routine check. I wasn't sure. "Yeah," I asked, keeping my voice calm. He approached me slowly. The other officer, younger with a scruffy beard, stayed by the car, but his eyes never left me. The tall officer who had been staring earlier looked me up and down, his gaze intense. "You a soldier?" he asked, his tone more accusatory than curious. I nodded. "Yes, sir. Army surgeon." The officer's eyes narrowed, and he seemed to study me for a moment longer. "You think you own the place?" "Huh." I blinked. "What?" "No, I'm just here to grab some stuff. I don't mean any trouble," but his expression turned dismissive. "You think you can just walk around acting like you're above everyone else?" I tried to stay calm. "I'm not trying to cause any trouble. I just finished my shift. I'm going home." The officer ignored me. He stepped closer, now just a few feet away. I felt his presence looming. I could feel the tension rising in the air. "Something didn't feel right. I think it's time you leave," the officer said, pulling out his taser. My heart skipped. I haven't done anything wrong, but before I could even take another breath, the younger officer lunged at me. He wasn't asking questions anymore. He was pushing me, shoving me, his hands gripping my arms tightly. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't prepared for what was coming. I tried to break free, but the young officer was strong. The other officer stood by, his taser aimed at me. "Stop resisting." The young officer yelled, though I wasn't resisting. I just wanted to get away, but it was too late. The officer's hand grabbed my shoulder and pushed me down to the pavement. I landed hard on my back, pain shooting up my spine, and then, without warning, the tall officer raised his gun. "Don't move," he shouted. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. I couldn't believe this was happening. A cop and officer of the law had just pulled out his weapon on me. I was a soldier, a medical professional, and yet here I was, being treated like a criminal. But before I could react, I heard the sound that would haunt me forever. Bang. The gunshot rang out, and everything went black. I don't remember much after that. The next thing I knew, I was waking up in a hospital room. The beeping of machines, the first thing I heard. I was disoriented, confused. There was a tight bandage wrapped around my side. Pain coursed through my body, and my mind raced to catch up. Double quotes, "Doc, you're lucky to be alive." My commanding officer's voice broke through the fog in my head. I blinked, trying to focus on his face. "What happened?" I asked, my voice weak. "They shot you," he said flatly. "2 cops, right outside a convenience store. You're lucky you're still breathing." I couldn't believe it. How could this happen? I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was just Trying to get home. The Army's already got it in hand. My commanding officer continued. The cops are being investigated. They won't get away with this. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that this kind of injustice would be addressed, but part of me was still in shock. Still trying to comprehend how something like this could happen. And then, the news broke. The 2 officers involved were arrested. They were fired immediately. The Army didn't waste time. They didn't wait for some lengthy investigation. They acted swiftly, decisively. They made sure those cops knew there were consequences for their actions. And they didn't stop there. There were calls for police reform. The Army's response became the benchmark for how to handle this kind of thing. But even though I had received justice in some sense, there was still a part of me that felt like I was losing something. A part of me that had been violated, not just by those officers, but by the system. I had spent years of my life learning how to heal, how to help others. But now, I was the one in need of healing. And the worst part? It wasn't just the physical scars. It was the emotional ones that kept me up at night. It took time for me to heal physically, emotionally, mentally. But the Army was there every step of the way. The support I received from my comrades, from my family, was more than I could have asked for, and it wasn't just me. This case sparked a broader conversation, one that still echoes today. A conversation about how we treat people based on the color of their skin. A conversation about accountability. About justice. I'll never forget that night or the pain that followed. But I'll also never forget the courage it took for those in power to make the right decision. For the Army to step up and say, this isn't right, and we're not going to let it slide. Sometimes, when the world feels dark, when things feel impossible, we find light in the most unexpected places. And for me, that light came from the Army, the one place where they had my back when it mattered most. They didn't just save my life. They saved my dignity. In the end, I realized something that stuck with me. Justice, real justice, isn't just about laws or rules. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard, even when it's uncomfortable. And that's something I'll carry with me for the rest of my life.